George Floyd statue is a
Andrew's fist.
Fight.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another video. Welcome to Sire's Domain, where we talk a lot about politics as well as the entertainment industry, because you and I both know that the entertainment industry is driven with a lot of politics. There is a 700-pound George Floyd statue in front of the Newark City Council, as provided by the council mayor, as well as a couple of private citizens. So let's get into the reasons as to why this has been done. Before we get into any of that, I want to crave your indulgence to help me out by hitting that like button on this particular video, because it does massively help me out. Now, with that important spiel out the way, let's get straight into the order of the day. And let's jump into this article from New York to find out why they have placed this statue in front of the city hall. A new statue of George Floyd was unveiled at Newark's City Hall on Wednesday afternoon. Mayor Ras Baraka, along with actor and filmmaker Leon Pickney, who commissioned the statue, and artist Stanley Watts, unveiled the 700-pound bronze statue that was donated this week to the city of Newark. Hopefully, when people walk by and they see it and they participate, hopefully it inspires them to become active in the struggles that are happening right here in Newark and right here in New Jersey. Barak said. Struggles, huh? We'll get into that later on. Floyd's murder at the hands of a Minneapolis police officer last year fueled a global movement for racial justice. The statue will remain outside the city hall for at least 1 year. Now, I don't know about you, but when it comes to putting out statues or making statues to commemorate someone, it's usually to commemorate someone for their achievements, right? Usually when you put out statues of Roosevelt, maybe it's because of the achievement that he has actually put out there. Statues of Martin Luther King, it's because of the achievement. What exactly has George Floyd achieved for? Now, not wanting to talk too much about when he was alive, because I don't want to speak ill of the dead, he wasn't actually a sought-after person. Now, his character is not some kind of a character that you will want your kids to grow up to become. Nobody will want their kids to become a George Floyd, right? However, regardless of this, he's being thanked by his former girlfriend. He's being thanked by Nancy Pelosi for what he did. He has been thanked by many of these liberals for actually dying, like as if he chose to die, like as if he chose to sacrifice himself. That was not a sacrifice whatsoever. So let's take a look at what that particular death, not a sacrifice, a death, has actually achieved for the Black community and American community and the world community as a whole. So first of all, according to the article that we just read, they said it fueled a movement, a global movement for racial justice. What did that global movement for racial justice actually accomplish in the US itself? Burning down of cities, looting of properties, the death of 50 people, destruction of properties worth about $2 billion, and also enriching the people that actually pushed this movement. Remember, $9 billion was made by BLM last year alone, using George Floyd's name amongst many others, and none of this particular amount of money reached out to any of the Black community. So George Floyd, so far so good. Everything that has been attributed to George Floyd has been negative before his death and even after his death. So why commemorate a guy like that? Even on his 1 year anniversary, what actually happened? While Joe Biden was grandstanding, coming to visit George Floyd's family right there in George Floyd Avenue, there was shooting going on, of which over 30 bullets were deployed. Thank goodness nobody died, but there were children on a bus that day in that very avenue going through an excursion. None of the bullets hit them. Thank God for that. There were also bystanders. There were a lot of people that were walking around. There were business people around there. There were reporters who actually filmed this whole thing going on. Every single one of them life were in danger. Is that something positive you can attribute to George Floyd? No. At the end of the day, that particular avenue has been opened up, because that shooting was one of the only ones that was witnessed in public. There were many more shootings in that avenue. One of them actually led to the death of a youth worker in that avenue. Now, when police tried to go in there and rescue them, they refused because white people were not allowed in there, neither were police allowed in there, and that poor old youth worker ended up dying. So is that something positive that you want to attribute to George Floyd? Like, again, I don't want to speak about the dead. George Floyd did not ask for this. None of this is his fault. This is the fault of the people that are using his name to push a phony rhetoric that is actually causing more damage and destruction to Black people. Now, when it comes to Joe Biden himself, while he was grandstanding Grandstanding, he made a promise that he actually broke. And George Floyd's sister is not actually happy with Joe Biden at the moment, because they said they were going to pass a Police Reform Bill Act and he was going to sign it by the day George Floyd's anniversary arrived. But instead of signing it, he came to visit them and he never did. And he wants to blame the Congress for not actually passing the bill. Now, last year, shortly after George Floyd died, there was a senator who wanted to pass a police reform bill, and that was Senator Tim Scott. Now, whether that police reform bill was strong or not, Tim Scott actually asked the Democrats to also come up with a police reform bill of their own, and they can meet in the middle, bipartisanship, so that they can help members of his community. But he was met with a great big no by the Democrats.
We wouldn't be here if it were not, as Senator Perdue alluded to, the death of yet another African-American man, George Floyd. His murder is why the country has given us the opportunity to lead. And my friends on the other side just said no.
And this year, they come up with a police reform bill that they themselves were not bipartisan about, and also they themselves were not in full support of the police reform bill. Now, the question is, could Joe Biden have done something about this bill himself? Well, according to an article from Virginia State, these are the things that Joe Biden himself could have done as the president from the federal level for the police reform bill. So, the article from Virginia University states this about what Joe Biden could have done about police reform in the U.S. It said, first, get the federal house in order. Federal law enforcement agencies are often worse than the state agencies in resisting best practices. Police suffer generally from a lack of transparency, a lack of good data, and a lack of basic accountability to police officers who engage in the worst conduct. The more than 80 federal law enforcement agencies have all of these problems. It is difficult, if not impossible, to get even basic information such as the use of force, policies, or disciplinary procedures. Even when federal agencies collect data on racial disparities in stops and arrests, for examples, they do not give it to the public. President Biden could change this by executive order. You see, mandating that every federal agency meet standards for transparency, accountability, data collection. Federal law enforcement should be a model for the rest of the nation rather than lagging behind. So apparently when it comes to this police reform, Joe Biden can actually do a few things using his executive order. Joe Biden did sign executive orders that have actually helped other races besides the African American. One of the 50 executive orders that Joe Biden has signed as far as this year is concerned include advancing equity, justice, and opportunity for Asian American, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders. This particular executive order protects these said races that I have mentioned, but none of this has been signed for anything that concerns the black neighborhood. If you don't know who to vote for between me and Trump, you ain't black, and yet black people will listen to that, hear every single thing he has said about black people, and yet still go ahead and vote for him. So, not even George Floyd's death has actually prompted Joe Biden to sign in something that would actually help the black community. Also, police brutality has still continued since George Floyd's death. A lot of people have been shot after George Floyd's death. Police shooting is still continuing, but also crime rate has increased in many of these cities, especially the Democrat-run cities, especially the cities that have been pushing for the defund the police movement that actually gained limelight as a result of George Floyd's death, something that has led to the deaths of more people. So I haven't seen all this, thinking back to the fact that the only thing that has happened as a result of George Floyd's death was one police officer being jailed for committing the crimes of murder and is going to be facing a long time in prison. That hasn't actually changed anything for the black community. It hasn't improved the black community economically. It hasn't improved them educationally. It hasn't improved them in terms of wealth gap. So what exactly has George Floyd's death done for the black community? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Actually, it has brought more negativity to the black community, and the black community has actually kind of regressed, in my own personal opinion, in terms of how things are, in terms of how they think and perceive things, and they are actually now starting to distance themselves from other people. For most of the people that are buying into this particular rhetoric are starting to distance themselves from other races, which is actually causing more problem, more regression to their community without them even even knowing. Personally, I like to take a look at other races and how they're conducting themselves and why they have amassed so much respect and power. And I see this. None of them, none of these other races, no white people, not Asians, not Hispanics, not Hawaiians are actually trying to commemorate their criminals or their dead criminals or people that died at the hands of police officer due to police brutality. A statue like this wouldn't help the community. Now, what other communities do is they praise the people that have done a lot of achievement in their community. You would see the statue of Roosevelt or a bust of Roosevelt inside of the Oval Office. Why not put a statue or a bust of African Americans that have achieved things instead of putting the big head of a constipated Don Cheadle in front of Rockefeller? I'm sorry, Don Cheadle, no offense to you, but this particular statue does look like a constipated version of you. I'm sorry, no offense. I love Don Cheadle. I love him as an actor. I don't support his political ideas, but I do love him as a person and I love him as an actor. What African American struggles are we talking about when many African Americans as part of the American history have achieved a lot? Talk about your Vivian Thomas. This guy was responsible for the first cardiac surgery that has saved millions of people as a result of his own discovery. Now, he worked with a white doctor, but this guy was responsible and the brains behind that very first surgery that a lot of people have been saved by today, including one Nigerian player named Kanu Nwankwo, who also was saved by a heart surgery and went on to have a very successful footballing career. Why don't we commemorate people like that? Black American history is not only slavery, but many people out there have achieved and accomplished a lot besides the civil rights movement, besides all of the sufferings that black people have faced in America. Why not encourage Americans and praise those people that have achieved a lot? What about a guy like Guy Bluford, the first African American astronaut, one of three that actually traveled to space in the early 80s? These are people that you can commemorate. These are people that you can put out there to let people know what black people have done for the US. I would expect that in the future, after people like Barack Obama or people like Oprah Winfrey have left this world, that you would actually put a statue of them outside of city councils so that people can remember that these people were people who made a big difference in America, if not for their political opinions, but in reality what they have achieved is something that black people should emulate to and be proud of. Not a George Floyd, but these sort of people. I don't agree with Obama's political rhetorics, but I do believe that Obama is a symbol of American history. The fact that he became the first black American president shows how far America has come in terms of racial disparity, and that how they are calling America a racist country is not actually true. When you talk about somebody like Oprah Winfrey, she has been an inspiration to millions and millions of people. Again, I do not agree with her political rhetoric that she's pushing these days, but she has accomplished a lot, and this is somebody that I believe that black people should be aspiring to. Why are we praising people like George Floyd? Why are we making statues for them? And I bet you that when people like Cardi B has passed on in this world, they will make a monument about Cardi B. They will be making and promoting people that are promoting negative connotations about black people. It's absolutely absurd. And to be honest with you, if you're a black person and you are celebrating this statue like those fools that were sitting around this statue, you are of all men most foolish, to be honest with you. Now, lastly, when it comes to the reasons as to why the mayor would have put this statue out, it's actually grandstanding and it's actually a misdirection. Newark is going through some serious issues when it comes to the education of Newarkans. 50% of people that live in Newark are blacks, right? And when it comes to the pass rate of students in schools in Newark, pass rate of students for English language is 35% and pass rate for students in mathematics is 21%. They're not dealing with that problem right now. Instead, they are making 700-pound bronze statues. Now, when it comes to the other people that supply this, people like your Leon Pickney, who happens to be an actor and a filmmaker, this guy, in my own personal opinion, is no longer on the map and is thinking, hey, if I put the statue of George Floyd out there, a lot of people will remember that I exist and a lot of people will give me praises. This might be clout for me. So I think that those people are clout chasing, because usually when people donate, you know, statues like this, they're usually anonymous, but these guys are promoting their names once again because maybe they will have a movie to promote in the future. I won't be surprised if a George Floyd movie is coming out and you see a Liam Pickney name in the production of that movie or even acting it. I don't know. I'm just saying. But in any case, these are my two reasons that I believe these two people are doing this. This is a usual democratic system of actually avoiding real problems by grandstanding as usual. And this is where we are at with black people. We are our own biggest enemies. Anyways, you guys, I have no more to say about this whole thing. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. I want to thank you guys for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to like this particular video, because it is important that you do so. It helps other people find this video. If you would like to share it as well, I will be most appreciative. And if today is the day that you decided to subscribe to the channel, I will be happy about that as well. Thank you guys once again for watching this video. I'll be catching you guys on the next one. Take care, have a great weekend. Peace, and Sayas out of here. Catch you guys on the next one.